Mega Man X is filled with some of the most fun and amazing levels in video game history, but what about the levels that we want to forget about? The bad levels! Well, that's what we're going to be covering today, because we're going over the worst level from every Mega Man X game, X through X8. But you know what? The worst level from Mega Man X is better than the best level from some other video game franchise, so yeah. Take that, other video game franchises, I said it! Mega Man X1, the first Mega Man X game ever made, honestly does not have a single bad level, so this is going to be difficult. Much like my video on the worst song from every Mega Man game, this is also going to be more of a search for the least best, so let's just get started. First of all, you might think that the intro stage is the worst in the game simply by default because you can't dash, and while this may be true and a little bit annoying, this is one of the best designed intro stages in video game history. I mean, do you guys remember Ego Raptor's video on this? Sequilities? Wait, what? It's pronounced sequelitis? Well, I feel dumb, but despite that, this intro stage is amazing and there's no way I could call it the worst level from this game. You might also think that the final Sigma level is the worst because it is just a vertical hallway with worms coming out of it, but this is also well designed. Not only does it create suspense before the final boss of the game, but the worm infestation even gives you the chance to farm for health, weapon ammo, and whatever else you may want. So despite it being pretty short and basic, it's still not the worst stage. Anyway, let's move on to the Maverick stages. First of all, Storm Eagle stage is amazing. It's fun, there's a lot you can do, and I am not calling it the worst. Nor am I going to waste your time building up suspense over Storm Eagle stage. If you seriously thought there was a chance in heck of me picking Storm Eagle stage as the worst level in Mega Man X, then you might need to go see a doctor. Boomer Kawanger stage is also a banger. I love this stage a lot and I just find it a lot of fun, but for this one, I can at least see why someone would call it the worst stage. I wouldn't agree at all, and I would bully them for being bad at Mega Man X, but if you've played this game one time and had trouble on this stage, I'd at least understand why you'd call it the worst, even though again, you would be wrong. Spark Mandrill also just has an awesome stage. It looks awesome and has cool lighting effects allowing you to play in the dark, and the music is awesome too. It can't be the worst stage by law. Chill Penguin also has a great stage. Again, you could argue that having to do the first half of the level without the dash kind of sucks, but like I said in the best levels video, I don't think that's fair to the stage itself, especially since you could always just go back on this stage and play it from the beginning after getting the dash upgrade. So there's no way this stage is the worst. I like it a lot. Flame Mammoth also has a pretty fun stage, and the fact that the lava freezes after beating Chill Penguin is super cool, so this can't be the worst stage. The only problem with this stage is having to use that stupid head upgrade of yours to get that other upgrade, but whatever, maybe that's just me. Armored Armadillo also has a very fun stage. You get to ride mine carts, you get to destroy this big ol' enemy, you get to acquire the Hadoken. I mean, this obviously is not the worst stage. And you know what? Neither is Sting Chameleon stage. This stage is a little bit run-of-the-mill, sure, but I like it a lot. It's fun, of course, but also there's this giant robot fight, and I love everything about it, so I refuse to slander this stage. Now, this means you might be thinking that Launch Octopus has the worst stage since it's underwater and stuff, but nope, this stage is awesome. It's obviously fun like every stage in this game, but the main secret area in this stage is one of the coolest secrets in the game. Maybe one day I'll do a video on the best and worst secrets from every Mega Man X game, but for now, just trust me when I say there is no way this is the worst level from Mega Man X. Meaning it's gotta be one of the Sigma stages, right? Well, sure, but it's not the first one, and that's for certain. I love the intro to this stage, I love the inside of the mountain. I mean, this is just one of the coolest levels of all time. Meaning it's gotta be the second stage, right? Well, no. I like this stage a lot as well. I'm not considering any bosses in this video, by the way, which does take away from the stage a good bit, but I just love how it looks on top of being fun in general. I mean, look at the outside section. It's just cool. But this has gotta mean it's the third Sigma stage, right? I mean, there's no other levels, but nope, it's not. I'm just kidding. It's definitely Sigma Stage 3. I mean, honestly, again, none of these stages in this game are bad at all, so if I had the option to pick none of them, I would, but that would defeat the purpose of this video. And to me, this is just the least best. Part of that is because it's mostly a refight stage and we aren't counting bosses, but even the levels in between are a little bit bland. Sure, they are a nice callback to the original stages, but that's about the only credit I can give this level, so I'm sorry Sigma Stage 3, but you are the worst level from Mega Man X1. Mega Man X2, the second Mega Man X game ever made, also really doesn't have any bad levels, but I will say, these levels are not as good on average as Mega Man X1. They are amazing, I love this game and think it's a great sequel, but this entry is still going to be a challenging search for the least best. Also, once again, just to keep this video under an hour, I'm not going to be mentioning every single stage from the games going forward. I did in Mega Man X1 just because it's so hard not to, but starting now, I'm going to purposefully be leaving out stages. In the last video, I also did this and warned everyone that if they commented telling me I forgot a stage, that would release hundreds of ladybugs in their house, but that didn't deter anyone, so I guess you guys just like ladybugs. And as much as I like to troll, I'm not mean enough to threaten anything worse, so I'm just gonna say please don't comment telling me I forgot to mention a stage. I did not forget, this is on purpose, you are going to look silly. Anyway, let's just get started. First of all, you'd probably think the intro stage has a possibility of being the worst because we are forced to witness the death of Green Biker Dude. Subscribe if you miss Green Biker Dude. We want him back. Revive him. He's a robot. Put him back together. Anyway, this is obviously horrible and dramatic, but that's in the intro cutscene and technically not in the actual intro stage, so I don't think it's fair to consider that when talking about the intro level, especially since the intro stage is pretty fun. I mean, it's not the best intro stage ever, maybe even the worst intro stage in the original Legacy Collection, but it's still fun, so it's not the worst. And before you ask, I will go ahead and say none of these Sigma stages are the worst. I like them. I won't call them the worst. I refuse. Moving on to the Mavericks, so let's focus on some realistic candidates for the least best, or in other words, the worst. First of all, let's talk about Wire Sponge's stage. A lot of people seem to not enjoy this stage for whatever reason, but that one hidden heart tank single-handedly stops me from calling it the worst. But even if it wasn't there, I still wouldn't say this is the worst stage in the game. I mean, it's pretty cool. Far from the best, but still cool. I guess the weather mechanic is a little bit annoying, but it is creative, so we gotta give it some credit, right? Either way, if this is your least favorite level, I wouldn't blame you, but I can't say this is the worst level from Mega Man X2. Morph Moth the Butterfly also has a stage that certainly is not the best from this game, but I still like it and think it's pretty fun. I mean, it's literally garbage, but that can't be helped, guys. Let's not fault the old butterfly for living in a junkyard. My least favorite part about this stage are those weird parasite things that go inside of those giant robot mini-bosses, which I am counting for these levels because they aren't actual bosses, they are mini-bosses, but it's not annoying enough to say this stage is the worst. It's really not even that annoying, it's just a mini-boss. But you know what my least favorite stage from this game really is? If you guessed Crystal Snail stage, you're a true subscriber and you deserve some chocolate milk, but that's not actually my least favorite stage, even though I do hate Crystal Snail. The real worst level from this game has got to be Magna Centipede stage. And again, this is another case of the least best because this stage is still pretty fun to play, it's just the worst from this game. I don't like waiting on the moving Minecraft blocks, the stealth gimmick of this stage is weird and I never really understood it, and on top of all that, it's just a pretty bland stage. Again, I don't hate this stage, but the best part about it is the fact that it shows up again in the final level of the game. And I mean, that's cool I guess, but it won't save this stage from being the worst. So congratulations Magna Centipede's level, you are the worst level from Mega Man X2. Mega Man X3 is one of my favorite games ever made and possibly my favorite Mega Man X game ever made. But there has recently been some controversy around this game because I am an avid Super Nintendo enthusiast and the comment section doesn't seem to understand why I hate the PlayStation ports. Well, I have many reasons. First of all, it makes Mega Man X4 not the first canonical PlayStation 1 game, which is stupid. But the main difference between these games is that on the PlayStation 1 there is worse music, which I hate, but there are also cutscenes on the PlayStation 1 version which are admittedly pretty cool, but I always skip those anyway. Even on the Super Nintendo, I'm spamming the A button while waiting for the stage to load, so I wouldn't watch them in the first place. So is my hatred for the PlayStation 1 version justified? I mean, I think so. The music stinks. But if you like the PlayStation version more, that's fine. I'm mostly just trolling. Even though the Super Nintendo version is objectively better, just saying. And you know what? Just to be a bigger troll, I'll say the Sega Saturn port is better than the PlayStation 1 port. Take that! Anyway, I'm just getting distracted now. Let's start looking at these levels to find the worst. First of all, Neon Tiger stage is pretty brutal for beginners, especially if you do it earlier in the game. I do like Neon Tiger because he reminds me of Garfield, but this stage is another story. I won't call it the worst level in this game because I don't think it is the worst, but it certainly can be frustrating at the very least. When I was learning the speed run to Mega Man X3, I remember this stage and Tunnel Rhino stage being the hardest in the entire game, but I think that's because they were like 3rd and 4th stages that you had to go to after getting minimal upgrades, so really it's not fair to judge it that way. But regardless, I still think that this is not the worst stage. Tunnel Rhino stage isn't as hard as Neon Tigers, but I do think it's a little bit more boring. I mean, it's a stage about going into the mines, you go underground, and there are a ton of enemies that just get in the way and do way too much damage. I hate these screw pillar enemy things because if you don't make it under them in time, you just waste a bunch of time trying to kill them, which again is the speedrunner inside of me talking, but it's still pretty annoying to me. Even from a casual perspective though, I just think this stage is pretty boring when compared to most of the other stages from Mega Man X3. It's not straight up boring, I mean it's a Mega Man X3 level so it's fun to play, but when compared to the other Mega Man X3 levels it does feel bland. But I still don't think it's the worst stage in this game. Speaking of feeling bland though, you could say the same thing about Blast Hornet stage. The colors are bland, the stage is pretty boring and uncreative, and the main appeal of this stage is the elevator section, which has already made a debut in other games. But honestly, I am being a little bit harsh here. The stage is just boring at worst, and it's really not even that bad. Certainly not the worst stage from this game. That honor would have to go to Sigma Stage 2. Again, I don't hate this stage, it's from Mega Man X3, so it's not that bad, but it has one glaring issue that makes it awful, being this terrible spiked hallway at the end of the stage. Now, there are two ways to go about this. You can either ride the snails all the way up to the top and die from old age before you finish the level, or you could try doing the speedrunner strats by performing a ton of neon jumps, damage boosts, and other hard tricks only to die and have to restart the level. You could say skill issue here, I guess, but I've actually learned the speedrunner strats for this and have done it successfully many a times, but I still think it's hard. I mean, that's fair, and I doubt the average non-subscriber will be able to do this. It's genuinely one of the hardest sections of any Mega Man X game when you're doing the speedrunner strats, though of course I'm sure my subscribers could do it on their first try because they're amazing at Mega Man and just amazing in general. Also, just to be clear, I don't hate this stage or think it's bad. I mean, the aesthetic of the destroyed backgrounds and stuff is super cool and is still a fun level, but it's just the least best from this game, or in other words, the worst. So congratulations Sigma Stage 2, you are the worst level from Mega Man X3. Mega Man X4, the first game on the PlayStation 1. No objections? Alright, this game is pretty good, and regardless of your stance on it being the first game on the PlayStation 1 or not, it is the first game in the series to get upgraded 32-bit sprites, which is pretty cool. But which level is the worst from this game? You may assume that it's the level right before the Iris or the double fight because, well, it's just one room with like, what, 13 enemies in it? That's pretty boring and bland, and honestly, if this was a troll video, I would pick this as the worst stage, but it's just not fair to the stage or the integrity of this video. And you guys know I care about the integrity of my videos more than anything. But just like Sigma 4 and Mega Man X1, I think this is mostly just for suspense and maybe a little bit of farming. Sigma 4 from Mega Man X1 did do this better, but that was for the final boss in the entire game, while this is for the betrayal of your friend or love interest if you're Zero. So while this stage is probably practically the worst stage, I think if we take context into account, that's not a fair assessment and this stage is fine. So I'm not gonna call it the worst. The other Sigma and Spaceport stages aren't bad at all, by the way, so let's just go ahead and start looking at the Mavericks. First of all, I've seen a lot of love for Split's Mushroom stage, and it's not going to be the worst, don't worry, but I'm not a big fan of this one. The first half where you're going up the stairs is pretty cool. I mean, I don't love it, but it's a pretty fun stage, I suppose. I don't have any real complaints, but the second half of the stage can be pretty frustrating. I don't have a problem with the giant drill section, that's fine and dandy, but that long vertical section before the mini-boss can be pretty annoying. Not in like a hard way, but just in a way that's not fun. I feel like I never die here, but I rarely have as much fun in this part of the stage as other parts in the game. I do like that you can skip the mini-boss with a glitch, so that's some bonus points, but if you're playing this casually, even the mini-boss is pretty annoying to me at least. But this stage really isn't that bad, and it's certainly not the worst. I just felt like bringing it up. I've also seen a lot of praise for Storm Owl stage in my comment section, which I don't fully understand. I mean, I'd understand why you'd like any stage from this game because they're all pretty fun, but a lot of people said said this was their favorite, and I can't agree. I'm not gonna say this is the worst stage in the game, but I've always thought this one was one of the weaker stages as far as Mega Man X4 goes. It's not that bad, and it's pretty cool how you're jumping on these ships and stuff, but for some reason it's just not that fun to me. Maybe it's because these ships can be a pain and there are a lot of big enemies, but honestly I don't know. I don't have a rational explanation for this one. I just think it's not the best level Mega Man X4 has to offer. But it's also not the worst, obviously. That honor is gonna have to go to Jet Stingray stage. I mean, some of you may have seen this coming, but I don't like bike levels for the most part. I like the one from Mega Man X2, but that's completely different. In this level, you are forced to be on your bike the entire time, and this level isn't unfair or anything, it's just not fun and I don't enjoy it. Well, okay, I enjoy it to a degree, but when I'm playing Mega Man X, I want to play Mega Man X, not race. Is that crazy? I don't know. There are certainly worse bike levels, as we'll see, and those make this one look amazing, but when compared to every other level from Mega Man X4, I'm sorry, but this one has got to be the worst. So congratulations, Jet Stingray's bike level. You are the worst level from Mega Man X4. With the first X Legacy Collection taken care of, it is obviously time to go on to the second Legacy Collection, where the games are worse and the levels are worser. I said what I said. I'm not refilming this. Mega Man X5 can be pretty fun if you are not comparing it to the previous Mega Man X games, but its levels are certainly a downgrade from what we've seen so far. So I'm going to start trying to make these entries quicker, so let's just get started. First of all, Dark Necrobat stage has some enemies that can drop spikes. This should be illegal in the Mega Man level design lawbook. Again, maybe you could say skill issue, but it's not about skills here, it's just stupid and annoying. This isn't the worst stage, in fact it's far from it, but the fact that there are multiple enemies that drop numerous spikes willy-nilly wherever they want to is stupid. LEGO as a company has illegal building methods that are not allowed to be incorporated into official LEGO sets when they're designing them. So why would Mega Man not have something similar with its level design? If they do, this should be added as an illegal move, and if they don't, well, Capcom should get to that before they make Mega Man X9 and make sure there are no spike dropping enemies. That's ridiculous. Anyway, while this stage is stupid and annoying, Matrix has a stage that's just boring, which is a real shame because this is a fire level and it looks really cool. But you know what the real worst thing is when it comes to Mega Man levels? Waiting. I hate waiting. I'm not gonna get into my history of speedrunning again, so let's just approach this problem logically. Waiting is boring, so why would you incorporate multiple sections of waiting into a level? Normally I would say like I'd tell you why and then something funny or dumb, but frankly there is no reason why. This sucks. And would you look at that, this stage is full of waiting. There are random waves of insta-kill lava, and if you aren't waiting behind one of these designated safe zones, you are going to die. Maybe you can skip cycles if you're a pro gamer and get through things slightly quicker, but I just hate this entire idea. Is this stage the worst in the entire game though? No, it's honestly not even that bad. Other than the waiting, it's an alright stage. The worst stage from this game is between two very different levels for two very different reasons. The first culprit is the intro stage. The reason why this stage could be the worst is first of all the amount of needless interruptions of your gameplay. That sucks. But more importantly, this stage has Sigma's big ugly face. I hate how this looks. It makes me sick. That alone might make this the worst stage from Mega Man X5. But I know you guys would probably get annoyed if that's why I chose this as the worst stage, so I think the other culprit is going to be the worst. Actually, I know it is because I'm making this video, but also because this has always been mine and probably everyone else's least favorite stage from this game too. I am of course referring to Squid Adler's horrendous bike level. Now, if you thought the other bike level was bad, this thing takes it to another level. Everyone's first experience with this level is seeing the Ready logo pop up on screen only to instantly fall into a pit before the Ready logo even disappears. Why is that possible? Add this to the lawbook of Mega Man level design because no, I wasn't ready. On top of that, this stage is extremely unforgiving. Not only is it super hard to actually beat this bike section, but you also have to pick up enough of these blue balls to break down that wall. It's all stupid and I hate it. This alone would make it the worst stage ever, but it gets even worse. Right when you thought this stage was over and the light at the end of the tunnel would appear, you get thrown into a weird and horrendous puzzle section that takes even longer to complete. Now, I don't mind puzzles most of the time. I mean, I like chess, so obviously I enjoy the occasional puzzle, but not in Mega Man, and especially not this one. Honestly, I don't even know if this counts as a puzzle because you shoot these things into each other before they break apart, and that's even more dumb and frustrating. I hate this stage with all my heart, and I think it's the worst 2D Mega Man stage of all time ever, and maybe even the worst Mega Man level of all time. So congratulations, Squid Adler's horrendous bike level. You are by far the worst level from Mega Man X5. Mega Man X6 is pretty controversial for its level design, but like I've said many times in my videos, I'm actually a pretty big advocate for getting good at this game. Though I will say, this game is very unfair if you don't know what you're doing, so I don't blame any one of you guys if you think it's too hard, which is something I don't say often, so don't get used to it. Once my Mega Man X6 walkthrough releases, you'll have no excuse. Anyway, let's get started. First of all, tons of people hate the Gates laboratory stages because they're hard, and frankly, I don't blame them. The first time I played Mega Man X6, I was so confused on how to get by in the first stage because I didn't have any of the armors and I was not playing as Zero, so I was stuck. This is pretty annoying, but of course, if you know what to do here, you are not stuck, but you do have a pretty difficult stage ahead of you. I don't know if this or the second Gates laboratory stage is the hardest, but they're both fairly unfair, and I do not blame people for not liking them. But honestly, I kind of like both of these stages now that I've beaten them a bunch of times. I don't love them, they aren't my favorite stages ever, but I can't make myself call any of the Gate stages the worst. Which of course means it's time to move on to the Maverick stages, which really are what take most of the criticism when it comes to Mega Man X6, so we have a lot of potential worst stages in this game. People really hate Ground Scarvich's stage because there are too many nightmare enemies, and you know what? I agree, but I don't hate this stage. I don't love it, it's far from my favorite, but like, it's just a mild nuisance at worst. Though again, if we're bringing up the Mega Man level design law book here, I think we should add a law to not add this many of the exact same enemy in the exact same room. It gets annoying. I saw a few people in my last video say Metal Shark Player stage was their favorite, and you know what? I don't blame them at all for actually liking this stage, because I actually like this stage too. But I've noticed a lot of people online hate this stage, so this might be the most polarizing Mega Man X level I've ever seen when it comes to my comment section, so leave a comment down below on what you think about Metal Shark Player stage, because I'm honestly curious. I don't know what the consensus is here. I personally like it alright, but it's not my favorite by any means because there's too much waiting. Blaze Heatnix almost has a great stage, but the main problem here are the donut mini bosses. These things are so annoying. There are like 10 of them in this level. The entire level is basically just a few rooms in between 10 donut mini bosses. Like, one was enough, 2 was already pushing it, and I've lost count of how many donuts are actually in this game, but it's way too many. Pull out the Mega Man law book once again, because we do not need this many of the exact same mini boss in one stage. But I still don't think this is the worst stage from this game. You see, with all the stupid level design in Mega Man X6, there's a way to cheese it and get around it somehow. With the donuts, for example, there are several weapons that can make them a lot easier to deal with. It's still not fun, but I mean, it's easier. But the worst level from this game is one I don't think is unfair at all. It's just straight up boring. The worst stage to me has got to be Shield Sheldon stage. This level isn't difficult at all, which you might think is a good thing, but at least when you're playing a difficult level and finally get past it, you feel satisfied. It's rewarding to beat a challenging stage. This stage, however, is just boring. You have like 4 rooms in the entire stage and it's just puzzles. Again, I don't want to do puzzles in Mega Man X, and these puzzles are also boring. You have to shoot these mirrors to reflect lights into a door. That sucks. I hate this. It's not hard, it's not frustrating, it's just flat out boring. I have less fun playing this stage than any other stage in this game, and to me, that makes it the worst. So while people don't tend to complain about this stage nearly as much as the others, I don't care. This is my channel and I get to make my own lists. If you disagree, let me know in the comments down below, or make your own video and I will happily check it out and subscribe to you because I enjoy watching Mega Man YouTubers. But I'm making it official, so congratulations, Shield Sheldon's level. You are the worst level from Mega Man X6. Mega Man X7 is probably the worst mainline Mega Man X game to ever be released, so surely the levels are not going to be that great. In fact, I wish I could just say all of them and call it a day. You know what? I just remembered something. This is my channel, so I will. The worst level from Mega Man X7 is all of them. Okay, I'm just kidding, that's not fair. As bad as this game is compared to the other Mega Man X games, it's really not that bad in general, so let's give it a fair chance for this video at least. A fair chance at finding the worst level, that is, which is still bullying Mega Man X7, but whatever, at least we're including it. First of all, let's start with the intro stage. I said I liked this stage in the last video, and I do like the second half of it, but the first half is just awful. I already don't like playing as Axel in the first place, and honestly, it's not that bad until you get to this wall. I complained about this wall a lot already, but guys, am I alone here? Does anyone actually like this wall? Is it easier than I'm making it out to be? Gamers, I need to know. Please tell me in the comment section, because I've only played Mega Man X7 a handful of times, and this wall is always surprisingly stupid. But anyway, despite all of that, it can't be the worst level from this game. One stage I genuinely do not like though is Splash Warfly stage. I mean, it's not all that bad considering this is Mega Man X7. You'd probably imagine it has worse stages, but I just don't like this stage at all. It's stupid and annoying. Not only is this stage boring, but it's also ugly, which just isn't good. I don't like it when my eyes are harassed by a level. But maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. Really, this stage is just boring and one of my least favorites in the game. But that's the problem with Mega Man X7 levels, unlike Mega Man X6. They're just boring. They don't necessarily have glaring flaws that make each individual stage uniquely bad in one way or another, but these stages just all blend together into a boring smoothie. And to me, the worst offender of this is Wind Crowring stage. Not only is this level boring, but it's also frustrating. This beginning section where you jump on all these planes or spaceships or whatever they are called is a cool concept, but in practice it's just annoying. First of all, I've already ranted about the beginning of this level's soundtrack, so I won't get into that again, but if you die over and over, you might genuinely go insane because of the music. But on top of this, I personally have pretty bad depth perception when it comes to video games, so 3D platforming is just a struggle for me, so I die on this stage a lot. I know, skill issue, whatever, but I can't help it. I have this problem in every 3D video game ever. Not in real life. In real life, it's fine, but for some reason in video games, it just doesn't work. But luckily for me, the other 3D video games have ways to get around it, or are at least more bearable than this level specifically right here. I don't know what it is, but this section of this level gives me so much trouble and I just don't like it. Not even because it's hard. I know it's not hard. It's just not fun and it's frustrating. Oh yeah, and it's also bland. I guess the part after this section isn't so bad, but it just isn't enough to make up for the atrocities committed by this stage, and it's still boring. I mean, mostly it's just too boring, but whatever, I'm making it official. Wind Crowing stage is the worst level from Mega Man X7. Mega Man X8 may have its problems, but it's at least better than Mega Man X7. Its levels honestly feel like a strange combination of Mega Man X7 and Mega Man X6, which sounds bad, but it's actually good. Obviously, they feel like Mega Man X7 because they're both kind of 3D at times, but they feel like Mega Man X6 as well because the levels are unique enough to not be boring. They may be flawed at times because they are full of gimmicks, but at least they don't all bleed together, which is a big improvement. But let's get right into things, starting with Earth Rock Trilobite. This level has a lot of waiting because first you gotta run away from this big old robot thing, and then you proceed to chase the big old robot thing, but honestly, I don't hate this level. It's not my favorite, and it's not the most fun thing ever, but it's far from being the worst. Plus, if you watched my video on the best glitches from every Mega Man X game, you would know that there is a way to get infinite medals here, which is great. Infinity is a lot of medals, right guys? That's a pretty big number. Gravity and Tunyon stage, on the other hand, is a little bit more annoying because of those spiked blocks that you have to dodge, and they can be glitchy. Usually, they're glitchy in ways that benefit you more than you getting squished when you shouldn't get squished, but it's still pretty stressful and not my favorite. It's especially hard for beginners, which honestly I am when it comes to Mega Man X8 because I haven't beaten this game that many times, but I still think this level can be enjoyable and I'm not calling it the worst. Avalanche Yeti has another bike level, and those have not had the best track record in this video, but you know what? I actually like this one. This is one of the better biker levels in Mega Man X, and it's leagues better than the one from Mega Man X5. I still have trauma from playing the Mega Man X5 bike level as a kid, but anyway. Avalanche Yeti's bike level is actually pretty fun. It's not the best level from this game, obviously, but it's a fun time. I guess it's a little bit long, and it can be annoying taking down this weird fish plane thing, but overall, it's one of the gimmicks that I actually enjoy in this game, and despite maybe being a little bit too long, it doesn't overstay its welcome. So good job, Avalanche Yeti, you've made a pretty good bike level. Here's some chocolate milk. You guys want to know a similar level that I don't like nearly as much though? Gigabolt Man-O Wars level. I've gotta say guys, I think this is the worst level. Sure, it's very pretty and I do appreciate that, especially after playing Mega Man X7, but this level just feels like it goes on forever and it is not very fun. Maybe you guys like this level, I honestly have no idea about the general opinions on Mega Man X8 levels, but I've never liked this one. It reminds me of the bad vehicle levels from LEGO Star Wars. In my old video reviewing LEGO Star Wars 2, I talked about how the vehicle levels in LEGO Star Wars 2 are so bad, but despite that, the ones from the first LEGO Star Wars game are actually great. And this level gives me PTSD me to my old LEGO Star Wars 2 days as a kid. But this isn't even LEGO Star Wars 2, this is Mega Man X8! So why are we chasing a boss through the same city as Star Wars 2 the movie? The world may never know, but I don't like this level, and that's something we all know now, so congratulations, Gigabolt Mando War. You have the worst level from Mega Man X8. Those were the worst levels from every Mega Man X game, X through X8. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and Christmas is coming up, so I probably won't see you guys until this coming up Wednesday, because Christmas is on a Monday. You know, I upload on Saturdays and Wednesdays, and on Wednesday, we're going to be going over the hardest Mega Man X level, finally. I don't know if you guys remember, but about a year ago, I made a video on the easiest level from every Mega Man X game, and I got sick and kind of forgot about it, so the hardest level from each game has been a long time coming. So hopefully this Wednesday, you guys will be there and see the video, because like I said, it's been a long time coming, so I hope it's good.